I honestly want to say that this entire week has just been dedicated to Trap Tricks having success. Smash the little crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more OS content. So the data set wrapping up last week here is here. And, Kashtira definitely pushed things around out here. Now, the first things you're going to see here are, oh boy, Kashtira's back on the top of the meta. What? Oh, and Purely's right behind it. Well, duh. Like, this has been what's been going on for the longest time. But what is the most interesting here about this entire set of data is Chimera is not first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. It is down in the it topped twice category, which means either a couple things happen. One, people finally learned how to counter this deck. So I've seen non-fusion areas running around. I've seen people handing all of the different C's to the opponents. It's kind of interesting just seeing the lines of play that people have been pushing onto their opponents, especially pushing something like Chimera to take such a huge backseat, especially after this deck had such a rocketing meta representation for most of its inception here. And I haven't actually seen such a meta shift like this in quite some time. I actually think it's so very cool to see that the meta just grabbed hold of things and shook itself up so much that at the end of the block you're just like, what happened here? What changes in the meta allowed for this to happen? And I would say we've had cases in the past where suddenly a deck is meta and then you just snap your fingers. I mean, usually a new set or something is the thing that kind of detours a lot of these things, but this is one of those cases where wasn't the point. No, it was just players figured things out, and Chimera has pushed itself back at least out of last week. Now remember, we do have a YCS happening this weekend. You know, it's the Team YCS. Results are going to be a little bit more interesting to see how, they'll set up out of that, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And then to top things off, we'll have to wait and see if Chimera does kind of regain some of its footing here, but it does look like in the earliest results that Kashtira is pretty much back on top. So it's kind of cool to see. People got sick of the deck, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, no, play it, I want to win. I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing the best deck, trying to win. Now, Rescue Ace was your third most represented deck out of the week. And you're like, wait a minute. Everybody said that Rescue Ace was going to not perform. Like, what in the world's going on? Well, I mean, to be fair, it only had 4 tops out of the data that we had, but I don't think that that's necessarily a terrible thing. I think it just proves that people don't know how to handle these sorts of decks, or they don't necessarily understand how the meta is doing its thing. So that's kind of interesting. Now in the 3 of category here, the first thing I want to point back out here is Floowandereeze still doing its thing. And I've been saying this a lot. If you want to get your invite right now, and you're like, oh boy, Floowandereeze can get you there. And you know what? I didn't think that Flounder was really capable of some of these top 8 grinds. Well, the deck has been figuring itself out. The deck has been waking up, and it's been telling people, hey, we can top 8, all right? It just tells me more and more that people aren't prepared for NPen and Friends. All right, I will say that Flounder does take a little bit of time and skill to know how to play. You can't just kind of turn your brain off and play it, but you can definitely get your invite with this, 100%, for sure. Labyrinth still sitting down here at the dinner table with 3 variants in the top cut. I'm not all that surprised. And then we had Unchained following it up here as well with 3. Unchained has been really good this format. I'm not surprised. Now, the other most interesting thing out of the data, besides Chimera getting brutally destroyed, is the fact that we had 3 Trap Tricks decks top here, which means that you can go back out to Walmart and you can pick up Walmart Turbo again, and you can have success with it again. I was waiting, honestly, for Trap Tricks to kind of wake back up and kind of do its thing. I know a lot of people, when I say this, people are like, oh, Trap Tricks is dead, Robbie, let it go. no budget players want to be able to play the game. Like, I'm sorry to tell you this. Like, people don't seem to understand that not everybody has money. Not everybody wants to spend infinite amounts of money on cardboard. All right, so if, you know, a couple extra cards tossed into a 3 Trap Trick structure decks out of Walmart gets you the chance to top, then they're going to take that. All right, I don't blame them in the slightest right now. Same thing with Flunder. All right, you got to put together an extra deck and you can play for like the 1 to 2 matchups that you actually are going to need that for. But it works. So yes, Trap Tricks has returned back to the meta. And I'm very curious to see how this is going to hold up going forward. I want to know if this was just kind of a weekly event here, or if we will see some sort of return back to this. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, we did have Vanquish Soul still continuing on with its line of play. I'm not all that surprised. I think one of the other surprises that has been catching people off guard is Salamangreat is still here. People are like, oh, no, Sal's going to run away, Robbie. It's done. The deck is horrible. It's not gone anywhere. It's still topping. It had 2 tops out of last weekend. You mean tell me that you're just going to discredit that? No, I don't think we are. I think we're going to give that some real serious thought, actually. I think we're going to consider that a big win out here. Now, the rest of the 2-ofs, I mean, we had Chimera, Exosister, Scareclaw, and Manadium. Am I surprised by any of that? No. Honestly, Scareclaw, Manadium, Exosister, these have been pretty standard competitors, honestly. And the 1-ofs were Rika, Branded, Sprite, Marincess, Tyr, and Plunder. I'm a little bit more surprised that Plunder did get the chance to do its thing, but it was piloted by Hunter Lloyd. And I'm not surprised. Hunter is an absolute monster with some of these rogue picks. All right, when your affinity is for rogue, you are capable of pulling off some crazy lines of play out here. And I got to give it to the rogue players, man. Like, if you figure out how to play your deck, you're going to be absolutely golden. All right, now, as we shift on over here into what actually won events out here, we had 3 Kashtira winners. Now, if you're like, oh boy, you know, what a loser, you know, playing Kashtira to win, I don't blame people. People want to make sure that they can walk home, you know, with the pride and glory of having won the event. There's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day. All right. People do want to make sure that they are getting those first place finishes, and I don't really blame them at the end of the day. All right. We also had 2 Purely decks also winning. Your top end meta is pretty strong right now. All right. And once again, I mean, the story of this meta has been Kashtira and Purely kind of, you know, knocking each other out here to see which deck is going to come out as the champion. And it has been a pretty standard story. Now, once again, that Plunder Patrol deck that we just talked about was piloted by Hunter Lloyd. It did end up getting the first place win out of its regional. So not only did Plunder Labyrinth do its thing, it grinded all the way up through the entire regional and sat down at the dinner table and said, not a single one of you here has any idea how to counter this strategy. And it did get the chance to walk home a winner. We also had Unchained taking home a win. I'm not all that surprised either. Unchained has been pretty consistent, like I said. We also had Rika, Sun Avalon, all the little plant stuff that people currently don't know how to engage with in the meta either, doing its thing. And then Trap Tricks has a win here. Once again, you should give some consideration if you're a budget player and you don't have, you know, crazy access to funds. You know, Evenly Matched is a good card right now. These hand trap inclusions, these power cards that are doing all of these different things, maybe there is something to this. Maybe there is some considerable things to this. So on the final wrap up of this weekend, we have Chimera taking an absolute dump outside somewhere. You got to try to find it. It's a lot more thinned out than it really should be at this point in time. Trap Tricks Revolution is back. And, you know, the rest of the meta is kind of doing its thing. You know, we are coming up on the release of tins here. I highly doubt anything's going to change with the tins except for more and more people are going to have more budget access to things. But we'll probably be getting a ban list, if I had to guess, probably very early October, which means one more month of this. At least we get to see what the OCG ban list is going to look like here soon, right? So please, comment down below what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.